What if the real reason your relationships keep disappointing you has nothing to do with bad luck or the people you choose, but everything to do with what you believe you deserve? Most people don't settle because they want to. They settle because something inside them says, this is probably as good as it gets. So they accept mixed signals, half effort, and almost love, calling it patience or realism. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Until your self-worth catches up, no relationship ever will. And once you hear this, you won't be able to unsee the pattern running your love life. Most people don't realize this, but the person they feel most drawn to isn't always the person who's best for them. The attraction feels powerful, almost magnetic, and they assume that intensity must mean something important. But often, what they're really responding to isn't compatibility at all. It's validation. It's the feeling of being wanted, selected, approved of. And that feeling can be incredibly addictive, especially if you haven't felt consistently chosen in the past. When someone makes you feel special, when they give you attention that feels scarce or earned, your brain lights up. You start thinking, if I can just get this person to fully choose me, I'll finally feel secure. So you overlook things that don't sit right. The lack of emotional availability, the inconsistency, the subtle anxiety you feel when you don't hear from them. You tell yourself these are minor issues or that love is supposed to feel challenging. But compatibility doesn't create that kind of ongoing unease. Compatibility creates a sense of safety. The danger of chasing validation is that it turns dating into a performance. You start adjusting yourself to be more appealing, more agreeable, more patient than you really want to be. You wait longer than you should. You accept less than you deserve. And all the while, you're focused on whether they like you, rather than asking the much more important question, do I actually feel good with this person? Emotional safety isn't dramatic. It doesn't come with emotional roller coasters or constant uncertainty. It shows up as consistency, clear communication, effort that doesn't need to be negotiated. When someone is compatible with you, you don't have to earn their affection by proving your worth. They see you, they choose you, and they do it without games. But if you're addicted to validation, that kind of calm can actually feel boring at first. It lacks the adrenaline you've come to associate with love. This is why so many people say they want a healthy relationship, but keep choosing partners who make them feel anxious. Anxiety feels familiar. It feels like longing, like passion. But longing isn't love. It's insecurity asking for reassurance. And when reassurance becomes the foundation of a relationship, it's never enough. No amount of attention will fill a hole that's really about self-worth. The shift happens when you stop chasing the feeling of being chosen and start prioritizing the feeling of being safe. When you decide that peace is more attractive than intensity and consistency is more meaningful than chemistry alone. The right relationship doesn't make you question your value. It reflects it. And the moment you truly understand that, your standards change, your choices change, and the kind of people you're drawn to changes with them. Most people believe they're choosing partners consciously, but in reality, a lot of attraction is happening on autopilot. You meet someone new, and almost instantly there's a sense of familiarity. It feels like chemistry, like a spark, like something meaningful. But very often what you're actually feeling is recognition. Your nervous system is identifying a dynamic it already knows how to survive in, even if that dynamic has hurt you before. We tend to be drawn to what feels familiar, not what's healthy. If love in your past meant unpredictability, emotional distance, or having to work hard for attention, your body learned that those conditions equal connection. So when you encounter someone who triggers the same pattern, it feels strangely like home. You might even tell yourself, I don't know why, but I'm just drawn to them. That pull isn't intuition, it's conditioning. This is why people often say, I keep dating the same person in a different body. The faces change, the circumstances change, but the emotional experience stays the same. You feel anxious. You feel unsure where you stand. You feel like you're waiting to be chosen. And because you've lived this pattern before, you subconsciously believe that if you can finally make this version work, it will heal the old wound. You're not just dating the person in front of you, you're trying to rewrite your past. The problem is, repetition doesn't create resolution. It just reinforces the belief that love requires struggle. Each time you stay in a dynamic that mirrors an old hurt, you're teaching yourself that discomfort is normal, even necessary. And over time, that becomes your emotional baseline. Peace starts to feel unfamiliar. Consistency feels suspicious. You wonder why someone who shows up reliably doesn't create the same spark when in truth they were simply not activating your old wounds. Breaking this cycle starts with awareness. The moment you notice that the strongest attractions in your life also come with the most anxiety, you begin to see the pattern for what it is. Ask yourself, does this feel exciting because it's right or because it's familiar? That question alone can change everything. Attraction isn't always a compass. It's often a memory. Healing means choosing differently, even when it feels uncomfortable at first. It means allowing yourself to be with someone who doesn't make you chase, prove, or perform. Someone whose presence calms your nervous system instead of keeping it on edge. That kind of connection might feel quieter, slower, even awkward in the beginning, but over time, it builds something far more powerful than intensity, trust. When you step out of autopilot, you reclaim your ability to choose love consciously. You stop trying to fix old stories through new people. And instead of repeating the past, you create space for a relationship that's rooted in safety, respect, and emotional maturity. That's not settling. That's finally growing beyond the patterns that once controlled you. Many people believe that if a connection doesn't feel intense, it must not be real. They look for butterflies, racing thoughts, that aching sense of anticipation. And when those feelings are there, they assume they found something meaningful. But intensity isn't the same as love. In fact, intensity is often a sign that something inside you feels unsettled, not deeply connected. Anxiety has a way of disguising itself as passion. When someone is inconsistent, warm one day, distant the next, your mind becomes consumed with them. You replay conversations, wait for messages, analyze tone. That mental preoccupation feels powerful, almost intoxicating, so you label it chemistry. But what you're really experiencing is uncertainty activating your nervous system. Your body is on high alert, not at peace. Emotional highs work the same way. The rush you feel when someone finally shows up after pulling away can feel euphoric. It's relief mixed with hope, and your brain rewards it with dopamine. Over time, you start associating love with emotional spikes, the lows that hurt, followed by the highs that feel incredible. But that cycle doesn't create intimacy. It creates dependency. You're not bonding through trust. You're bonding through survival. Real love doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't make you question where you stand or whether you're asking for too much. It feels steady because the other person is steady. They communicate clearly. They follow through. Their affection isn't something you have to earn by being patient, understanding, or low maintenance. And because there's no emotional chaos, your nervous system can finally relax. That calm can feel unfamiliar if you've been conditioned to equate love with drama. This is why healthy relationships are often described as boring by people who haven't experienced them yet. Not because there's no passion, but because there's no fear. There's space to laugh, to be playful, to be fully yourself without worrying that one wrong move will push the other person away. The attraction deepens over time instead of spiking and crashing. It's less about adrenaline and more about connection. When you confuse intensity with love, you end up chasing people who trigger you instead of people who support you. You mistake emotional volatility for depth. And the cost of that confusion is high. Chronic anxiety, self-doubt, and relationships that feel exhausting rather than nourishing. Love shouldn't feel like a constant test you're trying to pass. The shift happens when you redefine what passion actually looks like. Passion isn't anxiety, it's presence. It's two people choosing each other consistently, not dramatically. When you start valuing calm over chaos, you open the door to a love that doesn't burn you out. It builds you up. And once you experience that kind of connection, you realize how little intensity ever had to do with love in the first place. One of the most subtle ways people keep themselves stuck in the wrong relationships is by telling themselves to wait just a little longer, a little more time, a little more patience, a little more understanding. You convince yourself that if you don't ask for too much, if you don't rock the boat, things will eventually shift. And at first that feels reasonable. It feels mature. But slowly that waiting becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a prison. Hope is a powerful thing. It makes you focus on someone's potential instead of their patterns. You remember the good moments, the promises, the version of them you believe could exist if the timing were right or the circumstances changed. So when our needs aren't met, you don't see it as a clear signal. You see it as a temporary phase. And each time you stay, you invest a little more of yourself, making it harder to leave the next time. Fear plays an even bigger role than we like to admit. Fear of starting over, fear of being alone, fear that this is as good as it gets when you've already given someone your time, your energy, your vulnerability. Walking away can feel like admitting failure. So instead, you tell yourself that staying is loyalty, that patience is love. But love doesn't require you to abandon yourself to keep it alive. Almost relationships thrive on this mindset. They give you just enough to keep you hopeful, but never enough to feel secure. You're not unhappy all the time, but you're rarely at peace. You're constantly waiting for clarity, commitment, or consistency that never quite arrives. And the longer you stay, the more normal that uncertainty feels. You start adjusting your expectations downward, convincing yourself that your needs are unrealistic or selfish. The truth is, walking away isn't a sign that you didn't care enough. It's a sign that you finally cared about yourself when your needs are repeatedly unmet. That's not a communication issue. It's information. It tells you how much space this person is willing or able to give you. Ignoring that information doesn't change it. It just delays the inevitable and deepens the hurt. Letting go requires courage, not coldness. It means trusting that your future deserves more than indefinite waiting. It means choosing short-term discomfort over long-term dissatisfaction. And yes, it will feel scary at first. Ending something familiar always does. But staying in something that consistently leaves you unfulfilled slowly erodes your self-worth in ways you don't notice until much later. When you stop staying a little longer, you reclaim your power. You send a clear message to yourself that your needs matter, that clarity matters, that love shouldn't feel like an ongoing negotiation for the bare minimum. And in that space, once you stop settling for almost, you finally make room for something real. At the core of so many disappointing relationships isn't bad luck or poor timing. It's a quiet belief you may not even realize you're carrying. A belief that says, this is probably the best I can do. It doesn't show up loudly. It shows up in the way you tolerate mixed signals, excuse lack of effort, and accept relationships that leave you feeling unseen. When you don't fully believe you deserve something better, you don't reach for better. You settle for what feels familiar. Self-worth shapes what you allow. If deep down you question your value, you'll interpret breadcrumbs as generosity and inconsistency as complexity. You'll tell yourself that wanting more makes you needy or unrealistic. And because familiarity feels safer than the unknown, you'll stay in dynamics that mirror old stories about having to earn love, prove your worth, or be grateful for whatever attention you receive. What's dangerous about low self-worth is that it disguises itself as realism. You say you're being practical, that no one is perfect, that relationships require compromise, and that's true, but compromise doesn't mean shrinking yourself. It doesn't mean silencing your needs or accepting less than what makes you feel secure. When you don't believe you deserve more, you don't ask for it. And when you don't ask, nothing changes. People often think confidence is about feeling great all the time. It's not. Real self-worth is quieter than that. It's the ability to walk away from what doesn't align, even when it's tempting to stay. It's trusting that loneliness is temporary, but settling can last a lifetime. Without that trust, you'll keep choosing partners who reflect how you see yourself, not how you deserve to be treated. This is why healthy love can feel intimidating. Someone who shows up consistently, communicates clearly, and treats you with respect forces you to confront the question, do I believe I'm worthy of this? And if the answer is shaky, you may unconsciously sabotage it or feel undeserving of the ease. Chaos feels earned, calm feels suspicious. Raising your self-worth isn't about affirmations or pretending you're invincible. It's about aligning your actions with your values. Each time you set a boundary, speak up for your needs, or leave a situation that diminishes you, your self-belief grows. You start to see evidence that you can protect yourself, that you don't need to cling to what hurts just to feel chosen. When your self-worth catches up, your standards shift naturally. You stop negotiating for effort. You stop romanticizing potential. You stop mistaking familiarity for love. And instead of asking, will they choose me? You begin asking, does this relationship choose my well-being? That's the moment everything changes. Not because the dating world suddenly improves, but because you finally believe you're worth more than just getting by. The moment you fix this one thing, your dating life changes faster than you expect.